how awesome would it be for me to do something
Yeah.
like that? I would love to do that, because you hear all these amazing stories of people that do the race after, defeating cancer or some kind of
Right.
life-changing thing. So I thought, it'd be cool if I could, but I don't have feet. And then sure enough, right, like after that thought hit my mind that I just don't have feet, there was somebody running the race that had a single prosthetic. And I just it just sparked me. I thought, maybe it is possible. And it just stuck in my mind. It's like, man, that would be so cool. That is cool. And it ended up being just a deal I made with myself and God, that I'm like, if I could get through these, this month or so in the hospital and swim again. And I wanted to learn to run, and I want to make it a goal to do an Ironman.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's what I want to do.
Well,
So that's really where it started. And I don't know if it was pain pills or what, but it was something.
Well,
That's
it's
awesome.
not surprising to me that you got that idea in the hospital and in physical therapy, because like a lot of times that like people are looking to keep pushing themselves. Yeah. In some way.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Well, it's hard in those moments when you're in the hospital and you're doing your PT and everything, and you're like, wow, this
It's so
this sucks
hard
for me.
yeah.
It's hard for me, and I think it's a great place for someone to really contemplate. Okay, what's next? What am I really going to do with the rest of my life? And I mean, I've never been there, so I don't have personal experience here, but we've talked to a lot of people, and it seems like they do get a lot of ideas with what they want to do when they're going through that.
Oh,
so
most definitely. I mean, it also depends too on your therapist. I had a couple of really good ones throughout my double amputee process, and I had one in particular that here in Vernal, actually, that really just, he knew the difference between someone that just wants to be a wuss that day, or somebody that is really struggling. And he really pushed me through my limits, and it just helped me.
That's
helped
awesome.
me get an eye on being the prize.
Yeah. It's helpful to have someone that kind of understands what the person in physical therapy is actually going through.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's incredible. So how long from the time of going through physical therapy, getting out, how long until you started training to do your Ironman?
It was the next day, as far as not from the bed, but it was the next day when I got my stitches out. So it usually is about 6 to 8 weeks. I had a hard time on one of them. The wound would have a hard time closing, but as soon as I got the okay, because if you have any open wounds still, even though it's even a little bit, you want to be real careful as an amputee, because you get that dirty and you get an infection, then all of a sudden you're going to end up like me, where you start over again.
Yeah.
So
that's not
it
cool,
was it was the pool first, and then it went to the bike, and then it went to the run.
Oh,
wow,
that's awesome.
That's incredible. Where was the Ironman that you did?
It was in Panama City, Florida.
Cool.
I'm almost to that year mark. I think November 2nd is when that race was last year.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know some people that have done that one. Yeah, I did not an Ironman. I did a triathlon, like a sprint. And I'm like,
nice.
that's enough for me for the endurance stuff. I'd rather do. It's because it had the word sprint in it. I was like, oh, okay, sweet. It's gonna be short, which it was, like an hour. But still, like I don't like to train distance. I'm one of those guys that wants to do. I want to do heavy lifting. I want to sprint, jump, bound, flip, climb. You know what I mean? I want to do like anything that's like hard, vigorous, and not extended.
Yeah, in his
time.
gym, he has a rock wall and all kinds of like Ninja Warriors equipment and stuff like that.
That's the stuff that I love to do. But I had to do, just so I could just try a triathlon type thing. I did a sprint, and I might do it again when I'm older, like 55 or something like that. I don't know. But for now, I just have a goal, just like you were saying. You just kind of got something in your head, and I've had something in my head for probably a good 10 years. I want to be able to dunk when I'm 50, and I still have I have 11 years to go, and it's fine. It's going good now as long as my feet stay.
So far, so good.
Yeah, so far, so good. But I was just thinking right now, like as you were talking about, going through the hospital and everything, I'm like, what would I do if I had to amputate one of my feet? Would I still try to aim for that goal to try and dunk at 50? And I'm thinking, oh man, this would be hard. So I really like, you're inspiring me right now.
Yes.
So,
well,
awesome.
I'll tell you what, if you do end up losing your legs, I have these attachments that make me 8 feet tall, so I could jump without any problem. But that's a good goal. Dunking would be sweet.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Like I said, you're definitely inspiring me to push forward and see what my body can do.
Cool. Thank you.
One thing I want to ask you about also is, it seems like you are always hunting, and I've seen that you are taking like people in wheelchairs out hunting with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like how did that happen?
So it's kind of, there's some layers to why I hunt. It's something that I grew up doing all my life. Like it's like the connection I had with my dad. And I enjoyed doing it as a bond that we have. That's where it initially started. And then, I always tried to hunt. I struggled, obviously, when I was going through the peak of the disease. And then as an amputee, I was able to do the things that I've always wanted to do, that I've, thought in my mind, I wish I could do that. Well, now I can. And so hunting was one that just kind of took off, and I ended up being pretty good at it. It's, I picked up a bow and started doing things even on my own.
So is that what you mostly hunt with?
It's really whatever, tag is in
whatever
my pocket.
Season,
the bow,
yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. I like the gun too, but the bow, it requires more time and focus and practice because of that. So I spend more time doing it. Yeah.
I like that.
But when I hunt, I find myself not thinking about, like, some of the day-to-day problems that, putting the legs on, showering,
just
people watching, just the stuff.
Yeah. Just being out in nature, like, does that to me also. Like,
didn't you just go out last weekend?
Yeah. I actually went hunting this week on Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
And the only deer we seen was a little spike. So, yeah.
Those are delicious. Can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
But you're saying, like, being out there, kind of a little solitude, a little somewhere where you're not thinking about the day-to-day stuff. You're decreasing the stress, anxiety of day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's kind of where, like, it became an obsession too. Like, it's a release, and I feel like the fact that I'm contributing to my family, I'm providing food.
Yeah.
And that concept just kind of stuck as me and some other guys developed a program called Disabled Outdoorsmen, where we take anybody, not just wounded vets, but people that are maybe had an accident or were born with a disease like spinal bifida,
kids or whatever.
Kids, adults, whoever, and we're now a year into it. We're reached nonprofit status, and we've taken quite a few people out, and that's what we wanted them to experience, is that time where they're focused on the animal and the gratitude of what the animal brings to the dinner plate, or understanding the conservation of that of hunting.
Yeah.
And so as they're doing that, they're in the back of their mind, they're not thinking about, how am I get my wheelchair over there? They're just enjoying that experience, and it gains confidence. We really try to focus on pushing them on the field, that they're, we had a little girl where we hooked up her wheelchair to an antelope, and she got the wheelchair off, or the antelope off of their wheelchair. And, we have them try to skin the animal themselves just to get them saying, hey, I could do this.
Just
and
to
in return,
get involved in every aspect of the hunting experience.
Exactly. And I mean, there's lots of things, running, water sports, and there's tons of things out there that can do that. Hunting is just, it's a little bit different. And we've run into people that have never hunted before, and they're like, yeah, I want to do it. And we're like, okay, let's do it.
That's really cool.
And I feel like there's deer hunting and then there's elk hunting. And if you ever have the chance to go elk hunting, anyone, like, I would highly recommend it, because that's an experience in and of itself, because the hunt usually goes during the rut season, and like bulls are bugling, and it's crazy. It's eerie almost.
It is. It's an adrenaline rush for sure. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done it.
I love bulls. Oh, it's a blast, man.
Yeah,
it's a blast.
I should go. Maybe I'll go with you, Shane.
Yeah, come on.
I still haven't gone. I've gone shooting a couple times. That's it. We just grew up with no guns, nothing in my house, and it just, just didn't have it at the house. We just didn't go do that stuff. So
yeah,
I've never really had the opportunity to experience.
Yeah, and I grew up with it. Like, we have horses, and so we use horses to hunt off of. And it's just, I can't imagine not having that in my life.
It's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Horses make a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot that they could bring a lot of fun hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure. And so what other things are you currently involved in to help out, like, the community and other people going through, like, a not necessarily a traumatic experience, I guess, but going through a hard time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there's a couple things I try to do. So my prosthetists, they'll tend to hand out my number. Sorry, I should say a prosthetist is a leg maker.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll hand out my number to some people that are just, they have a hard time accepting the way they now look.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or even the people that are maybe that the doctors say you need to amputate, but they're like, no. And so sometimes they just need some encouragement on, I look at amputation and I try to explain to people, it's like, it's definitely life changing, but it's not like it's not life ending. It's not an end game solution for you. You could still do amazing things. And
look at you. You're the perfect example for that, and that makes sense why your leg maker gives out your number.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and that he's willing to trust me with that. And there's some people that I just have a hard time getting through. They just are just very, depression is a big thing these days, especially with limb loss, and limb loss has a high suicide rate as well.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I had a traumatic brain injury, and so I was in the hospital, and I was in the hospital with a gentleman that was double amputee, and he obviously was going through a really depressing period in his life, because he actually asked my brother-in-law for a razor blade, and it's just, and he didn't make it seem like anything bad he was gonna do to himself or whatever, but my brother-in-law just let the therapist know, like, that something's going on.
Yeah, that's tough. It happens, and and also guys that are paralyzed, that's another. I mean, that stat's even higher for those that do that. And,
Yeah.
and